It's Valentine's Day, Nightlings. In this episode of the Horror Headquarters, you'll be learning about the truth behind Valentine's Day, the story that originated this holiday, and the dark history that still carries through today. So feel free to grab those roses, open up those chocolate boxes, and share a kiss with your loved ones, because this episode is going to change your entire perception of this evil and mysterious holiday. Now, before we dive into the topic of today's episode, I want you guys to take a moment and think about all the money spent on this insane holiday, on roses, on chocolates, on dinner reservations, on jewelry, clothing, anything you can think of. All of it is spent today. Today is one of the best days for all those big markets, all those big businesses that are trying to make a quick buck. And especially when roses, a dozen is going for 50 bucks. And I can guarantee once you guys find out the truth behind this insane holiday, you're going to look at Valentine's Day completely differently. But let's go back in history to the year 279 in Rome, Italy, where the festival of Lupercalia was being celebrated. Now, this festival preceded Valentine's Day, and every year from the 13th to the 15th of February, Roman priests would sacrifice goats and dogs, letting their blood soak the altar, and they would take the bloody hides to whip women, believing it would make them more fertile for marriage. And as a result, the priests would force young women into random pairings with men, often leading to forced marriages. Now, during the year 270 AD, a person by the name of Saint Valentine, who was a priest, was beheaded on February 14th. Now, before his beheading, for 2 years, he was said to have been performing illegal marriages in order to convert people to Christianity and to get couples together, after one of the emperors, by the name of Emperor Claudius II, banned marriages for young men, believing that if they were single, they fought better than married ones. And Valentine, who was a Christian priest, defied the emperor's orders and secretly performed weddings for couples. And Claudius ended up discovering this, and he had Valentine arrested, beaten, stoned, and then beheaded in front of the public on February 14th. Now, before his execution, legend says that he sent a note to the jailer's daughter, signed, "From your Valentine." Now, some believe that Valentine was actually a bishop from Tournai, also martyred by Rome. Others think the church fabricated or merged multiple Valentines to create a convenient saint for February 14th, replacing the pagan festival Lupercalia. But there's no solid historical evidence that Valentine performed even secret weddings, but his story was likely embellished over time by the church. But one thing's for certain, the church was hiding something, and they are still hiding something, creating this magical holiday that's supposed to be about love and romance over 1,000 years later, and we still celebrate it. St. Valentine's skull is crowned with flowers and is on display in Rome at the Basilica of Santa Maria in Cosmedin. Other relics are scattered in churches across Europe, with multiple sites claiming to have his bones. So it just makes you think, like, why would they separate his bones, first of all? Why would they put his remains in different areas, but then glorify him with his skull surrounded with roses? They're hiding something. And this topic is still widely unrecognized by so many different researchers and historians because there is no solid evidence or any solid proof of what Valentine existed, of which version of him existed, because it's been erased by the church. After that holiday was replaced, they erased any connection to St. Valentine, except displaying his skull, of course, with roses. Some other stories and theories about St. Valentine stated that he even assisted Christians in escaping Roman persecution. But there's just so many other theories, and it reminded me of when I was in high school, and I had a creative writing class, and we had to choose one holiday to write a paper about. Now, this was open-ended. He told us we could write about anything about this holiday, whether it's the origins of it, how we celebrate it, anything interesting that has a historical aspect to it. And I picked, of course, Valentine's Day because I said, this holiday seems so mysterious. I want to know what came about, like how it was all invented. And heaven behold, I found out these dark truths. And I ended up writing this entire paper about how it's celebrated around the world, how it came to be originated. And I also had learned back in an article that the reason Valentine's Day was celebrated and ended up replacing Lupercalia as a holiday is they wanted to celebrate the martyr of Saint Valentine. So they basically would dance around a church 12 times in order to find love in celebration of his death. It's crazy that so many of these holidays that we celebrate here in the United States are surrounded with martyrs, or surrounded with massacres, or even death. I mean, Thanksgiving, for example, that's when the soldiers would end up killing a bunch of Indians, and then they would celebrate with a feast, and they would call it a Thanksgiving, so they would have multiple Thanksgivings. And this is how Thanksgiving came about. And then today, you see it originated as basically the Indians and the Pilgrims breaking bread with one another and becoming friends forever. And this is something that we celebrated, like thinking back to elementary and middle school. Like, we had to dress up and basically perform a play showing this. And that just erases the history of what Thanksgiving really is. And that's exactly what the church did with Valentine's Day. Now, I still recall the day that I presented my paper on Valentine's Day in class, and I was discussing all these aspects, the mystery behind it, and I also even went as far as to discuss all the bad luck associated with the holiday. I mean, if you look at when murders were created here in the US, you see so many that have taken place. For example, the Parkland shooting took place on February 14th. And that's just one example. Another example was in 1929, one of the most notorious gangland executions in history, orchestrated by Al Capone in Chicago, when Capone's men, disguised as police officers, lined up 7 members of George Bugs Moran's rival gang in a garage and executed them with machine guns and shotguns. And the massacre was so brutal that one victim, by the name of Frank Gusenberg, was riddled with 14 bullets, but he still survived long enough to refuse to identify who had killed him before his death. Another murder that took place was the suicide of Richard II in 1400, when the King of England was either starved to death or was murdered while imprisoned in a castle. He was a very powerful ruler, but he was overthrown by Henry IV and left to die. But his cause of death is still debated, but some say he was deliberately starved, a slow and horrific fate. Oh, and by the way, jumping a little bit back to 1929, on the same night as the St. Valentine's Day Massacre, another crime took place in Chicago, and this one's gonna freak you guys out. A couple was brutally murdered while parked in a lover's lane, shot execution style. This case was never solved, leading to rumors that it was either gang-related or the work of a serial killer. Another instance on February 14th, but in 2014, a woman in South Africa planted a bomb inside a love letter and sent it to her ex-boyfriend, which exploded in his hands, killing him instantly, and she later admitted that she did it as revenge for him leaving her. And I can keep going on, but I'm going to give you guys one more, and this one's really creepy. This one's called The Silent Horror of the Valentine's Day Killer, which took place in the 70s and 80s of the 1900s. A serial killer committed multiple murders on February 14th over the years, and his victims were often women who had recently broken up with someone, leading investigators to believe he was targeting heartbroken individuals. This killer never caught, and his case still remains unsolved till this day. And getting on a personal note, I think that love genuinely terrifies me because I've had my heart broken from friendships. I really don't want it broken from someone that I'm deeply in love with, and then something happens, whether they pass away, whether they end up cheating on me, or just so many different things. But I know you shouldn't go into a relationship with that specific mindset, but having your heart hurt from so many other things, it's so scary to go into. So definitely not gonna get in a relationship anytime soon. And I honestly, like, I'm probably gonna regret this for saying this, but as of now, I don't see myself getting married. I just don't. But watch me, like, in 2 days later, I'll find someone that I love, and I'm like, yeah, I'm getting married. But right now, I just haven't found anyone. And that's okay. And that to anyone out there that's celebrating this day alone, there's nothing wrong with that. I think something that's a constant misconception is that Valentine's Day is only for couples. It's not. It's for everyone. Self-care is very important, you guys. For taking care of yourself, treat yourself to something. Like today, I got myself some French toast and I got myself a strawberry shortcake. Like, I'm taking care of myself. I'm loving myself because I've been through so much and I deserve to be loved. And I love my own company. I enjoy it. And I hope that all of you guys get on that level if you're not yet. And just take care. Watch a funny movie. Watch a scary movie about couples getting murdered. I don't know. Anything to make you happy. Now, I kind of want to segue into Cupid. And if you don't know already, Cupid is in Greek mythology known as Eros in Greek mythology. But he has a darker, more sinister side that is often overlooked and it's played down by like everyone, like making it seem like he's some type of really sweet guy that's playful and he's a matchmaker. But many myths portray him as a manipulative and sometimes cruel force that bends both mortals and gods to his will. Like, his arrows don't just inspire love, they force it. So this goes back to the whole point of Saint Valentine and the holiday that they used to celebrate even before it was Saint Valentine's Day, known as Lupercalia. And then with Cupid, you have him forcing these people into marriage. You have him forcing people to fall in love through all these mythologies and theories about his entire existence. Now, obviously, Cupid isn't a real person, but I'm just saying the way he was created. Like, an evil Cupid can be a demonic entity, forces people into toxic, doomed relationships, feeding off their suffering. And you can just imagine someone that is obsessed with love and making people fall in love, even though it could be obsessive, irrational, and destructive. And I'm trying to think if there's ever been a film like this. Not that I know of it. I think it would be a really good idea to make a film of someone that is Cupid and makes people that aren't meant to be fall in love, and then like it's a true horror story. Like, you see all these people that aren't meant to get married but they think they have a connection and then it just ends up horribly. I'd love to explore that more. Watch someone take my idea now though, so I have to get that copyrighted. But that's another person that has an evil root in Greek and Roman mythology. But today, of course, he's played as a good person. Like, you know, you have candies decorated with him, you have food decorated with him. Everyone's like, I got shot by Cupid's arrow, I'm in love, and there's all these like animated like versions of Cupid that make him seem like a really good person. But I think there's a very dark history behind this character. I mean, you can look at Greek mythology. There's so many stories of him, of his upbringing, how he's blind, Cupid is blinded, all these different things that make Cupid not the person you think. So Valentine's Day, it's not what you think it is. It used to be a day of celebrating death, of celebrating people that aren't married, but now it's celebrated as people that are together, celebrated as a day of love, which it's okay, but people think like, oh my god, Valentine's Day is all about love, and I'm like, no, you don't know the origins, but hopefully by listening to this episode, now you do. And kind of going back to when I presented this paper to my class, I remember one student being so upset with me and they said, you've just ruined Valentine's Day for me. And I said, good, then I've done my job. Just like the same thing with the Thanksgiving episode. When I released that Thanksgiving episode, I had so much backlash from people on the internet, on Instagram, reaching out and saying, this is all false, this is fake, you're ruining the reputation of America. I'm like, I'm telling the truth, which is something that this country is known to be constantly covering up, as well as so many other countries around the world. I mean, I just talked about Valentine's Day, how the church is constantly trying to cover up the death, how they always say there's 3 different versions of Saint Valentine and they can never agree on one. It's all for a reason, you guys. Now, a little fun fact about me, and it relates to Valentine's Day. Did you guys know that my original due date was February 14th? I can't imagine having a birthday on Valentine's Day, I'm sorry, because that would just be miserable, and I don't want that. Thankfully, I was born on the 5th of February. I was born on the Super Bowl. But regardless, just thinking about being born on a day that's about death and like murder and celebration of a beheading. How cool. I'm joking. I'm joking. I mean, if you have your birthday on Valentine's Day, that's great. Just know the true origins of this holiday and how all this love talk, it's all about money, you guys. It's all about marketing. This is another horror about the world of Valentine's Day and about the world of marketing. Everything is all about money. I mean, Christmas made into money. St. Patrick's Day, money. 4th of July, you go and get stuff, money. Valentine's Day, money. All of these different holidays. Halloween, how much candy is purchased? Money. Everything is about money. So yeah, if you can't tell by now, I hate Valentine's Day, and I do appreciate people that go out of their way to make it a special moment, special time for love and for care for your significant other. But for people that think that this holiday is based about love, it's not. Now, yes, the priest that was beheaded, St. Valentine, did do marriages for people even though he wasn't allowed to, so he was breaking the rule. But at the same time, he was making people get married. He was forcing them into marriages. He was forcing them into converting into Christianity due to the stuff that we do have on his existence. But somehow his beheading is somewhat celebrated now, and Valentine's Day is all about love. Do you guys see the weird connection? How interesting this entire aspect of Valentine's Day is. So my recommendation, share this with a loved one, share this with your significant other, share this episode with anyone that you think could be educated on Valentine's Day. It's a fun, cute episode. Like I said, if you have a significant other and you take this day to really enjoy each other's company, that's amazing. I'm not downplaying that. I'm downplaying people that think this holiday is all about love and that it's rooted in love when it's not. It's rooted in mystery and murder. So if you guys are interested, please hit that follow button. Share this with someone that you think could enjoy this. Share this to your story, to all those people gushing about love, and you're just single at home and you're miserable. Share this with them. Make their day miserable. But I really appreciate you guys listening. I have been excited to talk about this topic. I was actually going to release this one last year, but I'm like, you know what? Let me talk about it this year. I have the time. It's February 14th. I'm going to release an episode about Valentine's Day and talk about the dark truths and the mystery that surrounds this insane day in history. So if you guys enjoyed this episode, again, please hit that follow button, share it with someone, rate us on Apple and Spotify podcasts. We're also on YouTube. We're all over the place now. We're all over the place. And follow us on Instagram at The Horror Headquarters. And make sure to vote on the poll below and comment anything you guys want to talk about, any special things that you do for Valentine's Day, if you spend it with family, if you spend it with friends, if you spend it with your significant other, or if you just spend it like me watching horror films. Regardless of your celebrations, now you know the truth behind Valentine's Day and how this history of Valentine's Day is constantly trying to be erased. But I refuse to let that happen. Everyone take care, happy Valentine's Day, and like always, tread very lightly and pray for forgiveness and love, because midnight hour and Cupid is approaching.